Right, so this time it's the tyres. The RSP, the last tax disc on it was 2001. So I'm assuming the tyres were, a couple of years old at that point, which makes them seriously old, cracked and probably dangerous for road use. They're just going to let go at any point and start getting punctures. So, time to replace the tyres. I want to try and keep the RSP as OEM and standard as possible. That's been my ethos all along, and it remains so with the tyres. The original tyres on the RSP Mini, Pirelli Cinturatos, are now back in production, but they're expensive. But they are original. So therein lieth the dilemma. And someone commented around the possibility of having a second set of alloys with different wheels on, because I did contemplate going with the 165 profile tyre rather than the standard 145. So that got me thinking that, yeah, maybe I could see if I could get a second set that would allow me to put more modern tyres on, a bit wider profile, a little bit better from a stability and handling point of view, but yet still keep the original tyres on the original alloys for if I take the car to a show, to keep it absolutely standard. So that got me thinking. So I had a look on everybody's favourite auction site and managed to find a set of alloys with more or less brand new Yokohama tyres already fitted to the alloys. So I thought, why not? So let's have a look what we've got and what we're going to fit to the Mini. And this is what I've picked up. A set of 4 period Cosmic alloy wheels, made in England, 12-inch, with brand new, more or less, brand new to me, Yokohama 165/60/12 tyres fitted. And as you can see, the tyres have still got the little pimples on the top, so they've not even been run enough to take the little pips off the on the tread blocks. So that's what we're going to fit to the RSP. So we've got some nice modern rubber, but yet I'm still retaining the original alloys with the original rubber for when I take the car to shows, etc. So what's the difference size wise between these and the original? Well, the alloys for one are a 5J12 alloy and the original RSPs are 4.5J12. So the alloy a little bit wider, and of course the profile of the tyre, these being 165 compared to the 145 on the RSP, we've got a little bit of a wider tyre as well on a wider alloy. So can you just put a wider alloy wheel with a wider profile tyre straight onto the Mini? I've asked a few questions in a few forums. Some say yes, you can put them straight on. Others say no, you can't. Others say it depends. So I think from a consensus point of view that I can determine, the alloys should go fine straight on the front, and there's a debate whether they may rub on the rear. Now, I believe the John Cooper Works garage, when these type of profile tyres were available as an option from John Cooper, they fitted those wider alloys, wider tyres with a spacer. So that's what I'm going to do this time, is just to make sure that there is no rubbing, because of course the Mini, designed to be made with semi-skilled labour, external seams, etc., they weren't millimetre perfect. So it may be that if you've got a shell that's a few millimetres wider, there won't be any problem, it won't rub. But if you've got a shell that's a few millimetre smaller than standard, which is quite feasible, then they could well rub. So therein lieth the problem. So to get around that, John Cooper fitted, and I'm going to go with that methodology. I'm going to fit spacers onto the rear wheels just to push them out a little bit, just to avoid any fouling. But of course, that's not as simple as just putting a spacer on, because even though the spacers are 1/4 of an inch, that takes away 1/4 of an inch of thread depth into the wheel nut. So in that regard, you need to fit slightly longer wheel studs, and there's an off-the-shelf kit for that. And this is that kit. You've got, this is why I got this one from Mini Sport. Comes with 8 slightly longer wheel studs and a pair of 1/4 inch wheel spacers. So let's get them fitted and let's get the new alloys onto the car. So first thing, let's start with the easy ones. We'll swap the front tyres. Dear, the PCD on the holes is different. They won't fit. Ah, gutted. So the person that I bought them off did advertise them as fitting a Mini, but they don't. So there's a quick story of buyer beware, do your research. Alloys off an MG 1300, 1100 do not fit a Mini. There's 1/2 inch difference in the PCD. The Mini is a 4-inch PCD, and I now know that the MG 1300, 1100 is a 4.5 PCD. So there we have it. We'll live and learn, onwards and upwards. So what I have managed to pick up now, days later, is a set of RSP spur alloys, and I will now get down to the garage and get the Yokohamas taken off the MG 1300 rims and transferred onto these. That then gives me a set of RSP alloys with the Yokohama tyres for modern day driving, and I can retain the original RSP alloys with the original Pirelli Cinturatos tyres on for if I want to take it a show and keep things absolutely original. So yeah, let's get down to the garage and get some Yokohama tyres swapped over onto these new RSP rims. Not the cleanest, a little bit scabby. But they'll do. Right, so a couple of days later, and we've got the Yokohama 165s fitted onto the spur set of RSP alloys. So first of all, I'll swap out the front tyres and just put full lock on each way, just make sure that there's no catching and fouling with the fronts, and then we'll get stuck into replacing the wheel studs and spacers to get the rears on. Right, so first of all, just check for any fouling. That one's fine. Nothing catching on there. Right, let's put a bit of steering lock on. Okay, so we've got full lock there. And there's fingers with gap between the inner arch and the wheel, so that's fine. Full lock that way is fine. Full lock the other way is fine. So that is standard setting, nothing changed on the front. Original RSP alloys, now fitted with 165 tyre. So on the front, absolutely no issue with the tyres catching anywhere. Right, so let's get stuck into the rears now. Right, so wheel off. Right, so first thing is to get the brake drum off. So take the handbrake off. Okay, so using the brake adjuster, and back the brakes off a bit to let the drum get removed. So that's, which way are we going in there? We're going this way, I think. A little knocking stick, give that drum a tap. There we go. One drum off. Alright, okay, so we need to take the centre cap off, and then we can undo the castle nut and split pin. Split pin out. What I'll do is just trim the legs off that split pin, just to make them a bit easier to line up to get through. Here we go, snip them down to the size of it. Right, that should be a little bit easier now. Finally. Right, split pin out, get that castle nut off, and then we can withdraw the hub and get these studs changed. Right, 15/16 nut. Okay, and then off comes the hub. You've got the washer and the bearing. Right, okay, so let's get these studs knocked out. Right, so the task is to fit these studs, which should be just 1/4 of an inch longer than the existing ones. just to accommodate that extra packing piece. Right, so let's get those knocked out. Right, so I'm going to put an old wheel nut on the thread, and then I don't damage the thread on the stud. That's wound down to the bottom, stud's not poking through the top. Right, let's see if we can drive that out. Okay. There we go, so that's knocked out nicely, it's just on splines. So that's one. One out. On to the next. There we go, studs out. Okay, new one's in. I'm assuming whacking it will do the trick. Is that going to tighten up, I suppose, when you put the nuts on? No, they don't seem to be driven all the way home. I'm assuming when you put the nuts on that pulls in, or maybe I need to drive that in a little bit more. So yeah, so the studs just need driving home now properly. So I've done those two, but just by putting it in the vise and just giving it a little another little persuasion with a little bit something heavier. So I've got the soft jaws on. That's it. Right, okay, nicely knocked home. Job's a good one. Let's get that back on the car. Right, so hub back on. Taper bearing back in. Oh, thrust washer, just dropped it. Right, I'll have to give that a proper clean to make sure there's no grot on that whatsoever. Another rookie mistake. Alright, let's have a look at the... So it's torqued up and the split pin holes have lined up nicely, so let's get a new split pin fitted. Right, just tuck them legs round and then get the cap on. Just cover back on. Right, okay, let's adjust the brakes back now and get the tyre back on. Right, so spacer on. So that now extra 1/4 of an inch on the thread just allows now for that spacer to get properly on the nut. Still using the original wheel nuts. Okay, there we have it. Nothing rubbing, nothing catching. Right, get that torqued up, and that's job done. So that's the driver's side done. Obviously, passenger side is just a repeat of what I've done. So I'll do the other side, and yeah, job done. So there's a reason why I've decided to put 165s on the Cooper RSP, because it's time to have a little bit of fun after all the grafting that's been done. So what am I up to? Well, here's a clue. I'm shortly going to be putting the Mini on this trailer and taking it to Blighton racetrack in Lincolnshire to test it out and let the Mini stretch its legs and see whether all the work that we've done has made a reliable car or not, because a little track day with the Mini is going to kill or cure it.